Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing great. Today, we have two adventurous souls who are a dynamic duo, both on and off road. Mridula and Michael. They are not just a married couple, but a very passionate travel enthusiast who are exploring this world beyond their daily jobs. So, hi, guys, how are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having us. And that was such a nice intro.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much. Really happy to be here.
I'm very excited to have this conversation. Soul traveling.
Yeah, so are we. We always love talking about travel,
Exactly.
so that's always fun for us.
So, how did you guys first meet? And what was the most interesting or unforgettable part of the story?
So we both live in Amsterdam, and I'm originally from England, and you're originally from India. And we met right here in Amsterdam. So one day I was out, I was out on a run one weekend, and I was running one of the local parks in between our houses. And as I was running through the park, I was taking a different route through the park. And bearing in mind, this is a public park, it's a normal everyday park. And there was an enclosure with 2 or 3 wallabies, essentially kangaroos, randomly in this park in Amsterdam. So I naturally stopped to take a picture. What are these wallabies doing here? And I also saw Radula with a friend doing the exact same thing. So we started talking over these random wallabies. I asked for your number. I plucked up the courage to ask for your number. And yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
Well, I think we chatted for about maybe 10 minutes or so. He asked me for my number, and then I didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, this is just like, I don't know, whatever park encounter. You just kind of write it off, like forget about it. And then 2 weeks later, randomly, I get a message saying, hey, do you want to go for a glass of wine or something? And that went on to dinner and just kind of, started becoming something. So I think that also I think set the scene a little bit in terms of what this, that the fact that, this is a different relationship and just a very, special and different from the others.
When did I meet someone like this?
It is a very unique story, I will say.
Very different.
It's very unique and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with our story.
Yeah, it's a nice meet cute story.
It's a nice meet cute story.
So, how did you guys get up with this name, Travel with the Laws? First, I thought that you mean travel with the in-laws.
Yeah, it's confusing that way, but no. So Laws is actually Michael's surname. So he's Michael Laws. Our focus has always been kind of on couples travel. We like traveling together. We sometimes travel with friends also, but the whole solo traveling and stuff is just not our vibe. We prefer kind of like the couples travel, and that's also what we blog about and what we share online as well. So then we thought Travel with the Laws is great. It's us, and it just kind of works.
Yeah. So how did you started this whole channel and everything? Like, where did this idea came from?
So I've always loved traveling. I've traveled, actually, I took my first international trip when I was 8 years old. And my family, I guess I got the travel bug from my family, and every year we've taken at least one family holiday together to someplace new, so this was something that I've always wanted to do. I'm also someone who always takes a lot of pictures. I take pictures of literally everything, especially when it's fun, it's new, it's cute. I'm taking a picture of it. So then it came to a point where, I've traveled a lot. I've been blessed to be able to do that. And, I just felt like I've got so much to also offer in terms of tips, in terms of where to visit in the different places, in terms of what I liked, what I didn't like. And I started out by, we were doing it together, right? Friends would ask us, oh, have you been to so and so place? What do you think? And then we were doing that more on we were sharing on social media as a fun thing. We were kind of helping people out anyhow, and then we were why not kind of not formalize, but why not actually like make a little hobby out of it, and a bit of like a side business. So we opened the travel account on Instagram, and then we also have a blog. And then now we just share our travels. It's all about like new experiences, and then also giving our followers just tips and tricks on how to also travel to these places, basically.
Talking about friends, I came up with that we all have that one friend who always has an excuse for not traveling. What do you think that stops people from traveling?
I think that's a great question.
I think that is a great question. And I think primarily maybe it's a fear of travel, the fear of the unknown. And people are creatures of habit naturally. So people like to be homebirds. And I think we should, or what we aim to do is to encourage people to travel and to really, explore the world. It doesn't have to be, going to the other side of the world to far lands. It can just be travel maybe within your country, within your local area. You go really, really local to get that travel experience. And I think it's really I lost my train of thought. It's it's really
it's empowering. It's like you don't really have to. People are sometimes worried about time. People are sometimes worried about money. I know for a lot of solo women travelers, safety can be an issue. But I think that there are ways to kind of work around it, right? And as Michael said, also, I think being naturally creatures of habit, that also sometimes stops you from sort of, going out of your comfort zone and taking that plunge. So there's a lot of reasons, but I think there's also never going to be like the best time to do something. You just have to like recognize what's actually stopping you and try and make ways to make that work. So for example, time. I think time, Michael mentioned a great point where you don't actually have to go for, 2 weeks or 3 weeks if you don't have like a lot of time. You can just go for a weekend. You don't have to go very far if you don't have, if money is an issue. So you can just hop on a car and go for like a 2-hour trip, and you're somewhere completely new and you're able to have that new experience as well. If you're scared of solo traveling, you can also there are nowadays like a lot of companies that are offering group trips, but all for solo travelers. So these are people who, let's say, don't have somebody who wants to travel with them, or they have a certain interest and they want to just kind of connect with other like-minded solo female travelers. You can all then kind of like go together. So there are a lot of options and a lot of things out there today to really get you going and get you to discover new places.
Yeah, and sometimes people are just lazy.
Also, so that's where hopefully people like us come in, where you see, a lot of the planning is maybe done for you because you take like inspiration around, so-and-so person has been to this place, they spent 1 week there, and these are all the 5 places they visited. I'm making this up. But then that's kind of like your rough itinerary already, right? And like that saves you so much time from like researching and planning, because that actually can be quite time consuming. So that helps.
Yes, 100%. So as we know, traveling is a pure magic. So let's talk about the benefits of it. So how has traveling impacted your life?
Should I answer this one?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I feel that traveling for me it's almost like escapism from your, say, everyday life, and also to really experience new cultures and practices as well. And what we really, really like is to visit new places. And because we're both expats who are living in, say, Amsterdam, we are surrounded at work and with our friends and people from all over the world, and just talking to them, hearing about their backgrounds and cultures, it really helps to cultivate the travel bug and to visit their home countries and to hear about everything, and it really helps you connect with them when you visit their countries and really
and know their culture,
and really experience where they're from. So we're always being told recommendations on where to go next, and also when we're visiting the countries, where to go as well. So it really helps to get the best experience possible when we visit these countries.
Yeah, and also sometimes you get to learn about life also. I'm sorry I cut you down.
For sure. Yeah. So you really see, how different everyday life is in some of the countries that are so different to where you're staying or where you live. I think one of our cultural immersions recently has been in Tanzania, where we went for our honeymoon. And when you go away from the cities and you're in the national parks and you're really in the middle of, I don't want to say in the middle of a jungle, but more in the savannah, basically.
Away from civilization.
Away from civilization. It's so different. You visit the tribes, you see how they live still today. And yeah, it teaches you a lot about minimalism and just getting back to the basics, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Sometimes it might also affect the way of living. Has it affected yours?
It's affected our way of living so much. I do think we come back sometimes from our trips and think, oh, we should do something differently, or next time we travel, we should be more conscious of something. And actually, that's one of the reasons why over the last maybe year and a half, we've started to make a few more conscious choices while traveling. So conscious about finances, conscious about the kind of places we choose to go, the kind of tour companies that we choose to support, the type of hotels we chose to support. So yeah, I think it's maybe less on a daily life, but more on a how we choose to see the world and how we choose to spend our time.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So non-season traveler, let's explore that also. Tell us about your most epic off-season trip and why you love exploring destination when they are less crowded.
So we have a bit of a habit of gifting each other a trip on our birthdays or anniversaries. So Michael is a January baby. I'm in October, both of which are somewhat off-season months in Europe. And we're not tied to school holidays because it's just the two of us. And it gives us something to look forward to, right? So October is in between, the summer is already finished, but you're still away from all of the Christmas holidays and all. So October is a bit in between there. And then for January, you've just finished the Christmas period and nobody really wants to do anything in January because everyone's just all, done with their holidays. So I think it gives us something to look forward to.
Yeah, and I would say some of the best holidays that we've had have been in these times and in these off-season moments as well, because typically, as you said, during the summertime, July, August, most places in Europe are
packed,
absolutely packed.
Yeah.
It was only in October last year we went to Croatia for your birthday, and it was one of the best breaks we've had in Europe. I mean, the weather was still fantastic.
Still warm.
Still really, really warm, but the crowds were just, in some of the towns and villages we visited, we were essentially one of the only people walking around where, 2 months before, it would have been packed.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to experience these things, almost having the whole town to yourself. And it was great.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way to experience these places.
Yeah.
Yeah, also you can, pause and look around peacefully.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about bumping into people. You can take your time with photos.
Yeah.
You don't have to make, dinner reservations. You just walk over to restaurants and see, what tickles your fancy on that day, and then you can go eat. It's so much more chill. And now I think we're big fans of traveling October, November time.
Also less expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah, huge. That's huge.
There are a lot of places, a lot of spots which are not yet known. But when you travel, when you go and start discovering places, you get to, explore these places. And so I would like to ask about that only. How do you uncover it? or find it? And how does it feel? Can you finally get that thing?
Good one.
Yeah, I like this question. I'll take this one if you want.
Okay.
So I really love planning for trips. I actually enjoy it almost as much as the trip itself, which is weird, I know, but so therefore for me it's a bit of a mix of things. So we get recommendations from friends in terms of where they have been, or people who are from that particular country, for instance. What we've seen on social media, I think these days you're also seeing a little bit more behind, off the beaten path, and not just like the big cities or whatever. Epic movie locations, sometimes these Christmas movies, or any kind of rom-com, just those like chill movies, but then they like are shot in like some of these most exotic locations, and you're like, I need to go there because that looks amazing. So that's one source of inspiration. But I think also largely just really a bit of research once we decide on a destination. So like a really good example is our upcoming trip in January. We're going to Puerto Rico and that part of the Caribbean. And yeah, we just kind of explored and looked through what can we do outside of Puerto Rico. We looked at the US Virgin Islands. We really researched what are the different Virgin Islands, what's there to do in each of them. And we've actually picked one of the smaller Virgin Islands to visit because, we're keen to see what that has to offer. It's one of the islands where, the cruise ships don't go. So the number of passengers and visitors that they get are much lower. So it's just a little bit of research to see what's popular there, what have other travelers said about it. And if it's something that we like, whether we get enough information about it or not, it's something that we try to fit into our itinerary.
Yeah, sometimes it would have also been like you have had an image, or you have pre-thought about it, like it's going to be great, but then you go and it was like, oh, I missed it. Like it's not that what you thought about.
I'm trying to think.
Have we had that? I can't think of one that comes to mind.
I feel like we must have had that, but I can't think of the exact example either.
I mean, last year we went to Italy, and we went to Cinque Terre, which is the 5 mini villages on the coast in Italy. Beautiful villages. Some are very, very small, other ones are a bit larger. And the ones which are the most popular, you'd think are popular because of the beauty and, et cetera, et cetera. But we prefer the smaller ones rather than the larger ones, because the larger ones were just very touristic, or, very, very crowded as well.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't really the quintessential vibe we were expecting when we were doing the research and stuff. Whereas the smaller towns, which a lot of people were talking about, they're nice, but there's not a lot to do there. We really enjoyed those. So
yeah, especially some of those where when you do some research, people are like, oh, you can skip this village, or whatever it is, and then we were like, we've got some time, let's go check it out. And it was actually one of our favorites. So yeah, I think it's also a little bit of you see what's out there, but then you kind of need to make your own, conclusions in terms of where you want to go and what you want to see.
Yeah. So how do you do this research?
It is largely on Google. It is based on TripAdvisor. It's based on articles from like Forbes or Lonely Planet, or any of these travel and leisure. So based on travel blogs and well-known sort of travel publications. But then also, we follow quite a few travel influencers and, people who focus on exotic experiences or new cultural immersions, or off the beaten path travel. And yeah, all of it just kind of like adds to the inspo, so to speak.
Yeah. So as you guys live in Europe, so would you like to recommend some of your top picks that everyone should visit?
Let me think. So maybe for me, I'm a big fan of like Southern Europe. So when I moved to Europe, I actually lived in Barcelona for 2 years. And when I was there, I got to travel quite a bit around Spain. So for me, Spain is like really a top country. Barcelona is great, but I also really love the smaller towns of like Seville and Granada and the southern Spain towards the border towards Marrakesh. It's really nice. I also think like, Croatia and like sort of the Balkans, so like Montenegro, Albania, they're really gorgeous. Very similar vibes to, let's say, Italy and Greece, but not as popular as Italy and Greece. So, and because they're not as popular, they're also a lot cheaper. And I think, yeah, they're just some of the more stunning landscapes that we've got in Europe.
Yeah, and I think for me, when a lot of people who live outside of Europe come to Europe, they tend to visit the key major cities. So your Paris, your London, Amsterdam, Barcelona, etc., which are beautiful to visit. But there's so much more, even just a little bit outside of those cities as well. So was it a couple of years ago, we went to this place called the Loire Valley, which is maybe 1 hour south of Paris. And it's this stunningly fantastic, beautiful place, which is just full of big chateaus and castles, which actually the Disneyland castle was based off one of them, which we visited in that area. So just imagine that castle, but there's hundreds of them in this area. Beautiful. And it's also famous for its wine region as well in this area. And it's 1 hour south of Paris. So there's so much even outside of the cities, which all these countries have to offer. And it's a completely different vibe and experience to the big city centers, because a lot of these major capitals are so big. There's a lot to see there, but there's also a lot to offer elsewhere in the country as well.
Thanks for this recommendation. If I ever visit to Europe, I'll surely go to them. Especially the castle one.
It's fantastic.
It's beautiful. Really nice. You can even do like a little road trip around all of the key castles in the region. It's like really like Fantasyland.
Yeah. So, conscious choice while traveling, what does it mean to you? And how do you practice sustainability and responsible tourism during your adventure?
Yeah. So I think for us, this is more on like sort of small changes that we make within our travel choices. So, for example, I alluded to this before. So, picking hotels that only source from the village and support local suppliers, for example, or they employ locals within their staff, or, they partner with local communities for cultural experiences that they offer their guests. Have energy efficiency practices that they follow, educating their guests around local customs and practices around ecotourism. And it's not just things that they do, but I think it's also educating the visitors and the guests that come in there. So a great example is the hotel that we stayed at in Maldives, where they talked to us also about their ongoing initiatives to like protect the marine life and sustainable farming around their fishing and etc. So I think it's also engaging in establishments that take all of this seriously and supporting them more than others.
Yeah. And also just one example which comes to mind as well is one of the hotels we stayed at in Tanzania, where I think it was 10 or 20% of the profits from the hotel they would give back to the local community to really invest in the schools and the infrastructure as well. So they had a long-term vision of what they wanted to do, not only as a hotel but as a whole area in the region. So they were important things which we picked up along the way, and we really want to try to implement those as we continue our travelings as well.
Yeah,
to support such initiatives.
Yeah, I didn't do this, and I never thought in this way as well. It's really nice to know this.
Yeah, and some people sometimes think that, oh, that means you shouldn't stay at like luxury hotels or some of these like chain hotels because they don't do much as much as some of the smaller ones. But actually, that's not the case. I think it really depends on like country, like destination by destination. It's important to just kind of research and learn about what the hotels are doing. And sometimes, yeah, even like the top properties do so much for for the environment, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a out of the box question. Like I have seen this in you guys, especially whenever you're talking, you're so respectful towards each other. Like you just want to listen to each other. You just admire each other. And also, like I feel like there is a different level of calmness in you guys, you know? So this is what I feel from an outside perspective. So would you like to put a light on this topic? Like, how are you making your relationship so beautiful?
Wow. Do you want to?
What a beautifully phrased question.
Yeah.
Where to start? I think from my side, it's all about communication and really just listening to your thoughts and processes, and then also trying to talk together as we move forward with a common goal. And I think whether that's in traveling or traveling or planning travels, or even just in everyday life, it's all about kind of working together every day to like move forward. And it is really fun and exciting, and it's something that I really enjoy and look forward to.
Yeah. And I think when you're traveling with someone, you kind of have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, it's you're not going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that, we try to bring in both, like Michael said, in daily life as well as our travels. But I will say it's not like it comes supernaturally. I mean, we work towards it, like at the start, I think also being from different cultures, our ways of expressing ourselves are a little bit different. We've been together now almost 5 years. So definitely at the start, it was a little bit of a work in progress to try and get ourselves on the same page. But I think ultimately it was all about, I think coming to a common agreement that, nothing's really off the table. We're down to discuss anything and everything. There's no reason to be to hide anything or not approach certain topics because of whatever reason. So I think just putting together some ground rules about the fact that everything's on the table. If you want to discuss it, let's talk about it, and creating that sense of open communication and transparency. I think that's helped us reach this space.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's a combination of respect, understanding, and discussion.
And patience.
And patience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in patience, I think you both are, made for each other.
That's really sweet.
So it goes without saying.
You're definitely the more patient one, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And it's so nice seeing you guys. It just brings hope. Thank
you. That's very sweet.
Very amazing.
Okay, so living the Europe life, what's the best thing about calling Europe home?
I can take this one. So I think living in Europe, you essentially have almost the best of all worlds, really. I mean, it's a continent that I feel has everything. If you want the beaches and the heat, you've got Southern Europe. There's so many different places. Spain, France, Italy, down to Greece as well. But then you also have the mountains. If you want to go skiing or hiking, hiking in the summer in Switzerland or Norway, where you have the beautiful fjords, you essentially have everything, and it's quite compact and close together. So you're never a couple of hours away from either flying or driving or taking the train. to all of these different countries.
Yeah, it's very well connected.
Very well connected, and I think that's a great benefit. And a lot of these countries, vary in size from big to small, and so many different cultures. Even within one country, there's a lot of different cultures as well. So it's always nice just to travel and see it all, because everywhere you go is always different.
Yeah, I mean, like a great example is just living in the Netherlands, right? So if you drive for 2 hours south, you get to Belgium. That's a different country. You drive 2 hours to the east, you get to Germany. That's a different country. So like, different country, different language, different cuisine. And it's just so easy almost to be able to experience such variety without even like jumping on a flight. And then 2 hour flight, you're in, Croatia, you're in Norway, you're in other, parts of Europe. So I just feel like, that connection already brings you so much closer to all of these different experiences. And like you said, there's a bit of everything. There's nature, there's hiking, there's beaches, there's wine, there's food, there's volcanoes, like if you go to like Madeira and all those places, like there's everything. So I think that is probably one of the benefits of calling Europe home, especially also compared to, we've got some friends and family in the United States, and all of them talk about, okay, we drive, I don't know, 3 hours, we're probably still in the same state. It's much more, I think, even though it's the same country, it's, I think, a lot less well connected than Europe is as a continent.
And it's also nice that most of these countries have a rooted history as well. So when you visit all of these towns and cities, you can see going back 500, 1,000 years, and it's all very different. So that's always really
Also, you can travel without visa.
That's also true. That's also true. All of these are kind of brought together with the Schengen visa. So it's hassle-free travel is really the key.
So if someone from outside Europe want to come there and is thinking of, working there and traveling, so how welcoming is Europe for people who want to work?
I think it's quite welcoming depending on the places that you choose. So just to give you and I'm talking maybe pre-COVID, because I know that some of these, rules around remote working have changed because of the pandemic. But pre-COVID, there were a couple of places that you could go as a foreigner or a non-European, and it would be much more easier to fit in than, let's say, some of the other places. So I think Amsterdam, the Netherlands in general, the UK, and in Germany, particularly Berlin, are all like very popular destinations for non-Europeans to come in, mostly because a lot of the work is done in English. You don't really need to know any additional language. Whereas I think, if you want to work in Spain or you want to work in France, you kind of need to know Spanish or French in order to be able to even be considered for a job. So language definitely played a big role.
Okay, so before we end this podcast, what is that one advice you guys would like to give to our audience?
Shall I start?
Okay, you can start.
So for me, I think the main thing is, to don't be shy to explore your own backyard. I think there is a lot of emphasis put around, how far or how long you have to travel for it to actually be a worthwhile experience. And I think it's important to note that there isn't a definition that you have to travel, to a different country or a different continent for it to be a proper travel experience. You can have a great experience if you go just, 2 hours drive down the road. It can be a completely different scenery, a completely different way of life, and you can have a great time as well. So don't let distance or time or money be a factor in determining your holiday. You don't have to do those as restricting criteria.
Yeah, I agree. And some of the best experience we've had have actually been home in the Netherlands, which have just been 30 minutes, 1 hour away from where we live. And I think what's also nice is that, as you said, you don't have to travel outside the country to really explore it. And there's so many amazing things on your doorstep, which will give you the the experience, the excitement of exploring a new location, learning new things. It could very well be. I think that would be.
Yeah. Just pack your bags and go somewhere, and you'll have a great time.
Yeah. So now Michael and Mridula are expecting two guests. One is and the other is me.
Absolutely. You're welcome
Because
anytime.
you have said so many good things about Netherlands that I can't stop.
No, we definitely like it here. And, the Amsterdam airport is one of the biggest airports in Europe. It literally goes everywhere. So yeah, I think it's also, being so well connected. So once you're here, it's also easy to explore more.
Yeah.
And I think always a big fan of inviting people to Europe and seeing what's here. There's a lot to explore.
So anytime, please let us know.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, we did.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
so
much
much.
for having us. It was really fun, and we're always super excited to talk about traveling. It's one of our biggest hobbies and something that we love to do. So yeah, we had a great time. Thanks.